I got food poisoning last night. I'm in Thailand at the moment. I had some prawns and something else and just completely wiped me out. God willing, I'm feeling a little bit better now, but right. Welcome back or welcome in. I don't know. Depends if you've been here before. So today I'm going to be diving into one of those verses that's scary, it's raw, and it's practical. And that is Proverbs 29:1, which says, "Whoever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy." Now that sounds really technical, so I'm going to say it in the New Living Translation version. Whoever stubbornly refuses to accept criticism will be destroyed beyond recovery. Proverbs 29:1. As I said, one of those verses that's a little bit scary. So for me, the purpose of this scripture, and by extension, the purpose of this video, is not about judgment or doom. It's about love, correction, and the power of listening. I'm sure many of you can relate to this, but it's easy to see advice as patronizing and to see correction as judgment, but that's not the case. And I think we can receive criticism of anyone. There's a great line you probably heard: keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. It's not like literally like hug them and go to bed with them. It's about your enemies will reveal things that your friends might not. Your enemies will reveal your blind spots because they will prey on them. Does that make sense? Most of the people around you who love you, who look after you, who care for you, that's friends and family and whatnot, that they will always lift up the good areas of you. They will always, if you produce something, they'll say it's great, whether it's great or not, a lot of the time. Now, obviously, there's a balance in a friendship where ideally they're giving you harsh criticism as well. But the best place you'll get honest and harsh criticism is from your enemies, because they will exploit them areas. Because they won't wait to tell you, they'll just exploit them areas. So Proverbs is one of those books in the Bible that's written for wisdom and it's written for guidance. It's a scary book. It's a very practical book. Although this verse specifically is a warning, it's also a reminder of God's love for us. You think about when you love something or you love someone, you want to, innately we want to correct the flaws. And if we think about the downstream effects from ignoring advice sometimes, or from ignoring correction, think how many times you've done something, ignored correction, advice, or anything. It's not about, on the flip side to this, it's not about listening to everything everyone says. That's not what it's about. But think how many times downstream from doing something, you've got there and you're like, So let's break down this verse. So phrase 1, whoever remains stiff-necked. Being stiff-necked is like being stubborn, resisting correction, even when it's good for us. It's the pride that says, "Nah, I'm good, I've got this." First place this points me to, and I think about, is when I first started going to the gym. You'd have people come up to you, correct your form, like they're genuinely trying to help you, correct your form, tell you to do this, tell you to do that. But I remember every time someone would tell me to do something, I'd literally want to go and do the opposite, which obviously had like a detrimental effect on like my gains at the time, like putting on muscle. And this was like for a year solid. I genuinely think it took me like the first year of starting to go to gym until I actually created my own sort of plan or own sort of vision for how I wanted it to work, which obviously has been like adapted over time. But yeah, it took like a year. I was going into the gym just freestyling for a year. Like when I say freestyling, not based off any knowledge, just going in, that machine looks shiny and it looks like it might do something to my legs or that might do something to my chest. I didn't look into any form, didn't look into any techniques. When someone told me to, I'd take it in one ear and then let it go out the other. But obviously in the moment, it feels good, feels like, yeah, I know what I'm doing and whatnot. And then a year later, you get down the line and you haven't progressed how you should have. You haven't progressed how you could have. And you can take that analogy and spread it out into various metrics of your life, like not just the gym, but like your work, your intellectually, physically, spiritually. Like if you're not improving in these areas, maybe it's because we're being stiff-necked. Maybe it's because we're not allowing correction in. Do you know what it's like? It's like when your engine light pops up on your car and you just ignore it and you ignore it and you ignore it and you ignore it. You know what I mean? And then one day that car is just not going to turn on. Ignoring the signs, ignoring the warnings, ignoring the correction. Phase 2 of this will suddenly be destroyed beyond recovery, or will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. For me, that's the scary part of this verse. This isn't about God wanting to destroy us. It's about the natural end result of ignoring him. When we ignore his correction, when we ignore the people around us correction, when we ignore our enemies that exploit our weaknesses, when we ignore this stuff and we don't lean into criticism or seek criticism / feedback, like the end result is being destroyed beyond recovery. There's 3 practical takeaways from this verse for me. Number 1 is reflect. Sit down, ask yourself, where am I ignoring correction in my life? I think the second one is seek. Aggressively seek correction. This can be challenging because of what I stated earlier. most people around you will accept you for who you are, will validate you for who you are. Like your family, your friends, they will. A lot of them will. But it's about kind of poking and poking and poking. Have those honest conversations with your people and be like, look, thank you for the feedback, thank you for the positive feedback. But in order for us to grow this thing, in order for this to get better, I'm going to need you to be honest with me. I'm going to need you to point out areas that you'd like improvement, and you can word things in a way that make people not feel bad for giving you feedback. So like, what's an area, maybe if you're doing content or whatever, saying to someone, what's an area that you would like to see more of from my content? So now they're not going straight into criticism. Now they're going into a level of feedback, which doesn't make them feel like they're criticizing you. So it's just about being clever with your words and kind of going around it and getting to the same destination. And then for me, number 3 is act. Listen to the people around you who are speaking the truth. It's what's hard to hear that will save you. The things that are hard to hear, the things that when you hear, you're like, I don't want to accept that. I'd rather accept this person over here that's telling me everything's all right. Like, yeah, that's a lot more easy to accept. And it makes a lot more sense to want to accept that. But it's the things you don't want to hear. It's the things that are difficult to hear. They're the things that will save you. They're the things that will push you forward. And obviously, like with everything, it's about that balance of, right, getting positive feedback, because you're obviously going to be doing things that are quite positive, but also like getting that challenging feedback of, actually next time, think about this, think about that, and think about this. For myself recently, just being brutally honest, I was seeking feedback about like my videos and stuff. He said, one of my boys who I respect deeply, he says, Alf, stop recording on your phone. Once you've surpassed a certain level in videography, your equipment needs to pass another level. And that's a little path that I've got to go on now, is like, content's got to a level. Cool, I need to keep the equipment up with the level that I'm producing. As you improve, things around you need to improve with it. At the end of these, I'm going to do a call to interaction. What stood out for you about this verse? So whoever stubbornly refuses to accept criticism will be destroyed beyond recovery. Take that, whatever comes to mind, and pop it in the comments. Just put it in there. Your stories and reflections mean the world to me. What's the criticism? What's the feedback from that? When you go to another country, if you can, try to stick to food that can't go wrong, such as chicken. You can tell if it's cooked. Beef, you can eat that stuff raw anyway, for your meats. And if you are going to venture out and get a little bit exotic with your foods and what you're eating, try to go to places where you can watch them cook it. 2 nights ago, I've got this Indian tandoori mixed grill, and it's got like prawns in it, some other meat, chicken, and some other stuff in there. I didn't even know what was in there. Ate it. It was not bad, to be fair. And then I woke up in one of the worst pains I've probably ever been in. But now I'm here. I'm blessed.